Hi everyone, I just wanted to give a quick intro and context to these videos. So I have a friend locally here who I play Digimon and Magic and some other stuff with who has expressed interest in WIXOSS. And obviously the game is 2 years old at this point, recently hit the anniversary or about to hit it, something like that. And we were playing and he sort of asked me offhand, like, is there a list of staples or anything like that out there? And I kind of thought and I was like, there's kind of not. So I made a bunch of them, one for each color and one for multicolor and colorless. And we basically went through it and recorded. It was sort of like a live stream thing. So it ended up being a lot longer than I thought. So I'm going to split these up into one for each color and then one for colorless slash multicolored. And I will also post the lists for all of them below if you wanted to check them out and see. There are some cards that I did not put in here and I forgot as we were going through, and I caught some of them and I have updated some of the lists. But so yeah, if you are new to the game, trying to figure out what the good stuff is, what people are playing at the 2 year anniversary point, this should hopefully get you started. This is sort of like a primer for people who are coming in knowing nothing, just to get a quick idea of what's out there. So enjoy. Home stretch, of course, I've saved the biggest one for last.
Yeah.
White, in basically all regards, is the most powerful color in the game because it does basically everything. Um, the only thing it doesn't really do is enter charge itself, although it doesn't necessarily need to all that much. But it does card draw, it does removal, it does enter denial because a lot of the removal is like bounce removal. So yeah, I'll try to go quick through this because there's going to be a lot of similar type effects that do similar things. So Tama is sort of the prototypical. She's probably the most powerful white level 3 in the game, at least right now. You can make an argument for Sash, although Sash has other things going on. But the enter effect. Look at top 4. Oh, you just left out a sentence. I need to talk to Hellfire about this. You look at the top 4, you put 2 of them in your hand, and then the rest go on the bottom of the
That's funny.
That's really funny. The big thing about Tama is her once per turn that whenever she attacks, you can down 2 up Signy and pay 2 to stand her up and attack again, basically. The once per game ties into that as well, that if you can use your Signy to attack on a turn, the once per game will stand them up when she attacks, and then you can actually use the once per turn on top of that. It's a really consistent way of getting damage that actually doesn't require any meaningful removal. Because you can basically threaten at least 2 damage every turn with just Tama. Even if you open no lanes, you keep all your Signy there. You just use Tama. You just use the once per turn. Eventually, they're going to run out of guards, and you're just going to power them through that way. So, Remember is one of the newer white Signy, who's also quite powerful. Whenever she attacks, target one Signy in your opponent's field, down it and freeze it. Which is freezing this is the only card outside of blue right now in Diva format that freezes anything. So that's already really unique. Once per turn, you get to look at the top 3 cards from your deck, add 1 to your hand, and put the rest on the bottom. So she's constantly like.
It's a really good card advantage.
Yeah, especially like you're always going to be at least 3 cards. You're drawing 2 per turn. You get the 1 per turn from the action, so you're always going to have full lanes no matter what. And then the once per game is your opponent's center Elric, and all Signy lose their abilities until the end of your opponent's next turn.
That's also really good.
Yeah, so she's a really different from Tama, like different enough that it's worth talking about. But yeah, really a different game plan, but that doesn't make it any less powerful. So the big one it would be the Elrig. I mean, some of the Signy losing their abilities is potentially relevant. The fact that also this doesn't target is if your opponent has like 2 Exias on board, you just do this, and now both of their Exias are offline, and you can remove them for free without needing to sacrifice lanes. I know we've talked about Exia, but we'll see her. She's coming. I'm going to talk about Sash. We'll start with the level 2. This is another one of the craft Elrigs that when she comes in, you get to choose your choice between Saturn and Full Moon as Elrigs, or as Signy that go in the Elrig deck. We haven't talked about the actual Signy that come as part of this. Both of these are probably the 2 most powerful craft Signy, even regardless of the other ones. Like Full Moon is very powerful. Saturn is also very powerful. And Full Moon is like a defensive option. Saturn is like an offensive option. As far as Sash herself, once per turn, whenever a white Signy is put onto your field during your turn, target a Signy in your opponent's field, and you can pay 3, so it's a little expensive, but you return that target Signy to its owner's hand. So she is she has removal printed on the Elrig, which is very uncommon for white for a center. Well, I shouldn't say that. There is an Akino that does it, but it just triggers whenever you put a white Signy, so you're constantly going to be able to do this over. Usually it's like a once per game thing, but she does this once per turn. She can keep doing it. She has a once per turn to give a target Signy plus 2k. It's fine. It's whatever. I mean, it maybe helps for like a Machina Smash situation, but not really to write home about. The other thing is she has a once per game during your opponent's next turn. They cannot attack with Signy unless they pay 2 enter. So if you can starve them out, which white kind of does already. Now you basically shut off their Signy attack step unless they want to pay 2 extra enter. So you can take a turn off that way. So yeah, she's got removal. She's got defense options. The 2 Signy options you get from the craft are both very powerful as well. So yeah, I think she's really good, especially in a mono white deck. Like mono white is probably, like, you can do mono red, you can do mono black. They're okay. Mono white is sort of the only viable like top tier monocolor deck, and Sash is just another enabler that just makes the color even better. So Akino Rock, this is actually not the default level 1 like I thought it was, but this is still a good one. It's a level 1, return target 2 or less Signy your opponent's field to its owner's hand. So this is a lane opener that denies them enter, and instead of vanishing. A lot of the level 1s will vanish stuff. This is one of the few that actually also sort of denies an enter as part of it, which is one of the reasons why white is so good, because a lot of their removal is bounce removal, so they are just not getting the enter from the vanish effect. Nova Mute, I kind of referenced this a little bit. This is one of the other level 1s that have attack phase timing on it. The enter, it doesn't cost anything to grow, but it has an enter effect where you pay 1 and discard a card. Target Signy in your opponent's field cannot attack until end of turn. Again, one of the only ways to use that on a level 1, which is why it's notable. Nova herself is not a great assist, but she just has this really unique effect to it. MC Lion Dig, this is sort of the standard white level 1. It's a little bit different just because of mostly of card jockey restrictions. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 Signy that shares a color with your center and 1 that shares a color with an Elric that's not the center. You add the revealed ones to your hand and put the rest on the bottom. The quote-unquote standard white level 1 is some measure of like, look at the top X cards of your deck, add 2 of them to your hand and put the rest on the bottom. MC Lion digs 5 with the stipulation that they have to share colors awkwardly. Some of them, it's like, look at top 3, add 2 of them, that type of thing. So it's some decent card advantage basically across all of the white level 1 assists. MC Lion Disrespect is another one of the 3 stops. So 2 to grow, target Signy cannot attack, discard 2 cards, you can target another one, you can pay 3, target a third one. So you can stop 3 lanes with this as long as you have the 5 enter and the 2 cards in hand. This is probably the worst one out of all of them because the fact that they are still standing actually enables Tama as being a thing. That if they're standing, you can still down them to Tama, which is really the only reason why it's like worse than the other one, so to speak. But still, having a 3-stop is still quite powerful. Yuka Yuka Pon is this is sort of, look at the top 3, reveal up to 2 cards without a guard and add them to your hand. So again, this is sort of the prototypical. I think this was this is the other one. Yeah, Yuka Yuka Zuban. This is the other level 1 assist Elrig that has attack phase timing. Target Signy in your opponent's field gains cannot attack unless you discard a card until end of turn. So similar to Nova, except you basically put the impetus on your opponent to discard a card to get that attack in. So that's this is the Kirikou, and this is the team where they basically force your opponent into making bad decisions. Like they have 2 really bad options that they have to choose from. So Pihara is this is the main phase, 0 to grow. You look at the top 5 cards of your deck, you put 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom. The notable thing about this one is you increase your center Elrig's limit by 2. So with this and with any she's also a level 2, so she gets a natural +1. So with just this card and your level 3 center, she puts your limit up to 9, so you can have 3 level 3s on your field for 1 turn, which is obviously very powerful. Dojan is interesting because so she costs nothing to grow. Target Signy cannot attack until end of turn, and then again, in the theme of forcing your opponent to make a bad decision, at the end of this turn, return this card to the Elrig deck unless your opponent pays one or discards a card. So if they don't do that, you just get to keep doing this over and over again. They're probably going to do that, but again, you're also denying them a resource as part of it, so it's not the end of the world. It's also free to grow, which is quite nice. Donna, go for it. Look at the top four. I think this is actually the one that I chose as the standard white assist. Look at the top four. Add up to 2 that share a color with your center. Put them in your hand.
Like the one that like every level 1 assist has.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I thought I didn't put one in there, but now I've seen 3 of them that I was not expecting. Donna Glittering is interesting. She is 0 to grow. Put a Signy from your hand onto your field. Its center effects don't activate. You can pay 2 to do another one. Additionally, you can pay 3 to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal up to 2 Signy, and put them in your hand. You can do these in any order. So if you need cards in hand, you can pay the 3 to put 2 in your hand, get 1 on the field for free, and then put another one on for free. It's just most interesting as a way, a 0-cost way of potentially. I mean, I guess you would have to pay 2 for this, but to clog 2 lanes. They're probably not going to attack into it to give you the enter as part of it. But yeah, she also is, card advantage as well. And then Akino Bye Bye. This is sort of the standard white removal level 2. Return target Signy your opponent's field to its owner's hand for 2 enter. You can also get to recur a guard to your hand, which is, again, not nothing, because white is the best color at recurring guards, which is another reason why it's very powerful. So Akino as an assist can do that. White Heaven is the you need to have 2 or more white Elrigs on the field. You get to trash on a Signy, and you get to bounce a Signy. So for 3 enter, it's a little expensive, but you're opening 2 lanes, and at the same time, you're denying your opponent enter for both of them. So if they have assists that they may need to grow into, now that there's 2 lanes open, they may not be able to actually do that because you haven't given them any enter as part of this. Yeah, this is, if you have the 2 white Elrigs on the field to do it, this is a really powerful piece. So a lot of people, what they've opted to is going the Esper route. This is one of the decks that finished top 4 in the GP. It was Tama. It was mono white Tama, so all the cards in the main deck were white, but it ran a Umar assist, and it ran, I think, a Machina assist. So the assist lines were not white, so he couldn't use the White Heaven, but instead of White Heaven, he just used Ultra Superheroes, which is arguably a better piece than White Heaven. So, all right, we're going on to non-life burst Signy. Zhao Yun is one of the. I mean, there's a lot of white Signy that just be really annoying and hard to remove. This one in particular is Shadow, level 2 or less Signy, so it's immune to Romail, it's immune to Lancelot, Oigona, Parajulis. Any typical Signy ways of removing Zhao Yun just don't work, so she's really good at that. 3K is a little low, but she has enough natural protection. It usually doesn't matter. Komai requires a green, probably, again. If you don't care about her specifically attacking, you don't necessarily need to do it, but it's usually better in the green to have green in your deck. Whenever a white Elrig on your field attacks, you may down 2 upped Signy on your field and pay 2 to up her, and it loses its abilities until end of turn. You can combo this with Tama if you order it correctly. If you do a Tama attack, you down her to her own effect so she loses abilities, attack again, then trigger Komai, because Komai still has this ability. So the fact that Tama loses abilities doesn't matter because she already doesn't have abilities. So you can potentially, with Komai and Tama, you can get 3 attacks in a turn as long as you have the enter to do that. Additionally, if she's Vanish while upped, you can pay 3 and do stuff, but that's typically not as important as getting the extra attack for 2 enter as part of it. Again, you're potentially giving up 2 of your Signy attacks to do it, but Elrig attacks are a lot harder if they don't have guards. I mean, it's just free damage at that point. So Miracle Draw is one of the better card draw spells, which is funny that it's in white. For 1 white, you get to look at the top 5, add up to 1, and put them on the rest on the bottom. If you pay exceed 4, you get 2 instead. So it's kind of like a little bit of a dig through time type situation, a little bit smaller. Dig through time is 7 cards, but still, I mean, for 1 white, you get the best card out of your top 4, or if you can pay exceed, if you're not going to use your exceed, you can get a second one out of it. So pretty useful. Gay Bolg, her most important ability is whenever your center Elrig attacks, you get to put target Signy on your opponent's field into its owner's trash. So she's a way that you can, again, more like denial options if you're already going to do the Tama thing anyway, probably. This is only once per turn, so you can't double up on it, but if you weren't planning on attacking with your Signy anyway, the fact that you can trash their Signy instead of putting them in the ender zone or just letting them sit there, like this is, again, another way of generating card advantage. And also you can down it enough Signy to draw a card if you want to as well. So I feel like this is less important. The fact that she's trashing stuff is the more important ability. Tokiyuki is a level 1 3k during your opponent's turn as long as your center Elrig is white. She's an 8k, which is huge. So yeah, she's a really powerful. She dodges a lot of common removal. Even some of the Elrig ones that we looked at, like the Hanayo, Sakura, which is only hits 5k. So yeah, this is another really sticky Signy if your Elrig is white. If your center is white, this is a really powerful card. Yuki has 2 really useful effects. Target Signy on your opponent's field loses its abilities until end of turn. So if you were like to trigger an Exia, which I know we'll talk about, the Exia effect still triggers because it's like in the bucket. That's what they call it, bucket, so to speak. It's like the ability will still trigger, so Exia will still open a lane or it'll still stop a lane. But the fact that you can Yuki first and basically like force the Exia to trigger, you can like she can block a lane and then you just open a different one, something like that. Or there are, again, other abilities that you may want to get rid of. Like you can, if your opponent has like a Tokiyuki that is 8k and you can only remove 3k, like now you can blanket. Or you can move things. Like after you've opened the lane, you can still use Yuki to move. Yuki is basically like the hard Exia counter. And she's a level 1 with no life burst, so she's a really useful card to even like splash index. Flash cards at the beginning of your attack phase. If there's 3 or more white Signy, you can pay a white to bounce a Signy with power 3k or less. This is a pretty common effect. Flash cards has it. There's the next card we'll look at, Over Pursuit, is also... Oh, it's just level 1. Never mind. I thought it was 3k or less. Yeah, again, this is bouncing a card. This is a level 2 way of opening a lane, and the fact, again, it denies your enter. It bounces it to hand. 3k is a bit of a weird threshold, but it's more relevant than you would expect. Over Pursuit is a wild card that is actually a real card for some reason. A return target level 1 Signy your opponent's field to its owner's hand. If there's 3 or more white Signy on your field, enter charge 1. So this is just free.
That's just free. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why like mono white is a real deck, because like you just don't get level 1s anymore because this is free removal. Yeah, I mean you can just keep running, and yeah, it's really good. Orochimaru, she has a lot of effects. The enter effect is not nothing to add a guard back to your hand if you pay 2. The biggest one, in my opinion, is... I mean, both of these are kind of the same effect. Discard 3 to bounce a Signy with power 12k or less. Instead, if you discard 2 and a guard, you just get to exile the 12k or less instead. In either case, you're removing a 12k Signy and also denying them the enter as part of it. The hard part is just having the 3 cards to discard. But again, like white is like weirdly good at drawing cards, so it's pretty easy to have this as a thing. And this card is very frequently online and a way. It's one of the few ways outside of like maybe the sash once per turn to hit things that are big. Usually white hits like level 1s or 3k with like the flash cards, but this can hit 12k, so that it's a lot higher threshold to hit things. Driver's Ed just has level 1 Shadow during your opponent's turn, so both their level 1 Signy and their level 1 Elrigs cannot target this. So again, this sort of fits into the theme with Driver's Ed, Tokiyuki, Zhaoyun, also Artemis. The Signy cannot be vanished by your opponent's level 2 or lower Signy effects or Elrig effects. Like all of these cards are basically on level 1 ways to like just be awkward and make it harder for your opponent to open lanes. And they all kind of have slightly different uses, so they don't all... There's not one that outclasses all of them, Because like Zhaoyun is just Signy effects, so the Elrics can hit it. Artemis blocks level 2 and level 1s, but only like vanish effects. So if they have like a minus effect on the black assist Elrigs, for example, that's like a rules-based vanish. So Artemis still can get killed by those. Driver's Ed is only level 1, so you can still Lancelot it. Tokiyuki, if you have level-based removal, you can still get rid of it. Tokiyuki's probably the best one, but you still have to have your center white, which, again, you may be doing anyway, just because white's a pretty powerful color. And then Astolfo, while all Signy on your field are white, it gets plus 4k. And then while there are 15 or more white cards in the trash, it gets Shadow, Signy with power lower or equal to this case power, or these Signy's power during your opponent's turn. So typically, if you can hit this threshold of 15 or more, she's just a 12k that has Shadow, Signy with power 12k or less, which is like disgusting. At that point, the only really good way to remove her would be like a Machina Smash or some type of assist Elrig. Unless they have like maybe an Osagatsune to like buff their own power and then kill it. Or I guess Animirage, but even Animirage is like -8 on something that's 12. Like that's awkward too. You'd need 2 things to do that. So yeah, this is a new card. I expect to see this a lot. This is a really good. This is also level 2. This is the first. A lot of these defensive ones. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like a lot of these are ones. This is a level 2. That's a 12k level 2 is already uncommon.
Like a level 3.
Yeah, it's stronger than a number of level 3s that we've already looked at that only have 10k. So yeah, and she's 12 and has potentially Shadow for some other level 3s. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right, home stretch. We can do it.
Oh yeah.
Curse on. During your turn, whenever one or more cards basically are milled, all Signy in your opponent's field lose their abilities until end of turn. So this is another non-targeting way to turn off Exia if you're running black with like Baphomet or other cards that just mill things for free. This is a way to just turn stuff off, which is really powerful. The fact that it doesn't target is really the main reason why it's useful. Haniel is enter, pay 1, look at the top 3, reveal a level 2 or less Signy, and add it to hand. It's one of the best card draw options in white. It costs an enter, of course, but it doesn't get you a level 3, unfortunately. But this is just a good way to sort of keep your hand full, because you're always going to need probably a level 1 and or level 2 to play on the field, and Haniel is a really good way to just keep them in your hand. Arcwin, during your opponent's turn, gains Shadow, so she's really hard to remove. Enter effect, pay 1, similar to Haniel, look at top 3, except she gets any Signy and add it to hand, so she can get Servants with that, which is really powerful. She's sort of been power crept by a lot of the other white Signy that we have seen and will be seeing in the future. But she's still a decent option. She's more of a budget version of like an Exia or potentially a Remember. Oh, I didn't put Remember on here. I'm an idiot. Well, Remember's a really good Signy too, so we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Kagatsune Maru, as long as there's another Signy, this is plus 4k. So again, target your level 1 7k, you've got another option in here. This one's a little bit weirder just because like if you have it on level 1, if you have like 2 1s, they just remove the other one and then remove this one, so it's not.
Unless they're both that one.
True. Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, I mean, there are assist Elrigs that hit level 1s, so it's not perfect, but yeah, I mean, that is a way to sort of get around it. Penlight, at the beginning of opponent's attack phase, target Elrig cannot attack unless they pay 2. So basically, if they keep this around, it'll tax their Elrig attack. At the end of your turn, if you use a spell against Shadow, that's less relevant, although if you're running the over pursuits, that can become relevant. It's really this effect is really the exciting one on Penlight, at least. Ishikiru Maru is another beefy level 2. Level 2, normally 8k during your opponent's turn, it's 12, just automatically. And then whenever another Signy enters the field, you look at the top card of your deck, and it's a scry 1 effect, basically. You get to either put it on top or on bottom. So there are some cards that care about this. A lot of them, they're not necessarily in white, although there are a couple. I think Yukime is one. Or no, that's opponent's deck, never mind. But yeah, this is basically here because it's a 12k level 2 during your opponent's turn, so it's really sticky and hard to remove unless they want to dedicate stuff to it. And the scrying effect, again, is not nothing, and it's sort of just free value, just as part of having her. Exia is sort of the horrifying monster, easily the best defensive Signy in the game right now. Whenever your opponent targets a Signy with anything, you choose one of their Signy zones, and they cannot attack in it until the next turn. The auto effect is also kind of fun. It's a little weird. At the end of turn, up all the Signy on your field. It does turn off Remember, which I forgot to put in here. Because Remember is that's 15,000 when she's downed. So it turns off that effect, and she gets some other effects too, which tax your opponent. But yeah, really, this effect is so powerful, and it sort of single-handedly turns off aggro strategies very effectively, unless you can blank her with like a Curse on or you can like bait it out with a Yuki type of effect. So it's funny that like the best counter to Exia is like more white. So that's where we get this like weird like self-propagating like everyone's playing white. We have to play more white to counter the white that everyone's playing.
Yeah.
Lynx is one of the best offensive life bursts in the game, which doesn't look like it. All it is again, she's vanilla 10k. She only has a life burst. You can pay 1 enter if you do return target signaling your opponent's field to its owner's hand. So this potentially is defensive. If you hit it early enough in when your opponent is attacking, you can bounce something to prevent a damage. More importantly, it is removal that will allow you to attack in during your turn. And the fact that it's pay 1, so a lot of life bursts you want to be for free, but the fact that this is completely unconditional. Usually life bursts that remove things have costs or like limits associated with them, like maybe 12k or less, 8k or more. Like there's a bunch of different, like there's free ways to get this kind of stuff, but the fact that this hits literally anything, and it's probably hitting them on their turn, so if they have an Exia out, you can just bounce their Exia with Lynx, and now you're free to like do whatever you want during your turn. So yeah, this is one of my favorite life bursts in a game right now. Sela is this is a really weird effect that almost never comes up. The big thing is during your opponent's turn, whenever a Signy attacks, target Signy on your opponent's field loses its abilities until end of turn. So if they have a Signy that has Assassin or whatever, or they're trying to like do some weird stuff, this also affects, although it doesn't necessarily, depending on the timing, it affects souls that you would get from Deus. They would have to attack with the Soul Signy first, otherwise you can just blank the souls out, because the souls give the ability to the Signy, so you can use Sela to turn them off. She also has an enter effect, which is basically a choosy draw one, which again is not nothing. So a lot of really useful effects sort of overall, but the fact that she can blank a Signy is really powerful. Yukime is, if the Signy in front of this is vanished during the attack phase, it goes into the trash instead. This is the Musica ability, where basically if you attack with the Signy and vanish something, it just goes away. It goes to trash, which is really, again, it goes more into the enter denial thing. This is a way that you can potentially clear out Signy using this 12k body and just attacking into stuff, and still removing them from the field, which again denies them enter. It also denies them card advantage too, because that card is going to the trash instead of like getting bounced to their hand. This effect isn't really as useful. Declare a number, reveal the top card of your opponent's deck. If it's a Signy with the same level, you get to draw a card. It's hard to do without having the coins. The main thing is this constant ability that just trashes stuff really easily, and there's some really degenerate things you can do with that. Specifically, there's ways you can, in blue, if you have an Umer center, you can actually move Signy from lane to lane. So you can actually move this Yuki, vanish something, which then goes to the trash, move her, vanish another thing, which then also goes to the trash. You're just using one Yuki main, which is disgusting. Donna Memoria, she has a 3-coin thing, which is a little expensive. The most relevant thing is for 1 white, her base power becomes equal to target Signy's power until the end of your opponent's next end phase. So this is another one where, again, you can have a level 1 that's 12k if you wanted to, because you can, if you have like an Exia out or a Sela or whatever, you pay an enter, and now your level 1 Donna is 12k, which is just gross. And then finally, this card, I'm not sure about this card, but it's super weird, and I think there's some silly things you can do with it. I will know more once the set comes out and I can actually play with this. She has the ability during your opponent's turn, whenever your opponent would target a card with their ability or effect, they have to target Pantomime first, as long as...
Spellsky, is that you?
Yeah, kind of, basically. There are ways they can play around it, so it's not like the end-all be-all. She also has a once per turn ability. Whenever your opponent's ability targets this Signy, you can give another Signy shadow. Basically, what you can do is sort of like protect your Exia. It's almost like Exia copies like 7 through 8 if you run, or 4, I guess 5 through 8. If you're running 4 Exia, you can like run 4 of these and just kind of have 4 more Exias, I guess. The most interesting thing about this, like these, I don't know if that's like usable enough. The most interesting thing is her life burst. Is you draw a card, then you can add a card from your life cloth to the hand. If you do, add a card from your hand to your life cloth. This is the only way in the game right now you can specifically add a card with a life burst from anywhere to the life cloth, I believe.
Yeah, I was looking for ways to do that earlier, and pretty much all of the cards that ways to add cards to your life cloth, you have to shuffle your deck first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's basically all random. The only ones that aren't random, there's like Machina Repair will do it, but she only hits non-life burst cards, so it specifically has to be a card without a life burst. There's an Urith card that can also, I think, do that. She does 2 of them, but again, they both have to be non-burst cards. But with Pantomime, you can draw a card and potentially like tuck away a Lynx and then use that as the next life burst, and like now all of a sudden your life burst is removal. Or you can there's another card, did I put it on here? One of these cards, I don't think I put it on here. There's a card in white that will allow you to basically give all the cards in your hand guard as a life burst. So if you like don't have a guard in hand, you can play that as the top card of your life cloth, and then when they attack into it, now all of a sudden all the cards in your hand have guard, so you like don't even need a servant, or any other like basically whatever Signy life burst you need. And your opponent doesn't even know what it is either. So in a mono white deck, it's a little awkward, but if you're running like a green deck and you have an Akufuku, like if they attack with the Elrig and you flip the Pantomime, you're like, cool, now I can put Akufuku on top of the life cloth, and now the next time they attack, like the rest of their Signy attack is just completely nullified. So like you like going into the next turn, you could just know that that's a thing, and they'll have no idea because you don't have to show them what's in there. Like, you just put it in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure about how useful this card is going to be. It's hard to like specifically pick cards, especially level 3s, just because their life burst is good, especially in white, because you have Exia, you have Sela, you have Penlight, Arkwin, Remember, who I didn't even put in this list. I'm gonna get Remember real quick because we can talk about Remember, because she also has a life burst. So it's really hard to find room for all of those cards.
Yeah.
I hate that I have to do this private. Sure. So yeah, I'm not convinced that it's going to be useful, but it's definitely something I'm going to play around with.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did she go? Did I not put her in here? Did I just click it and then not? Oh my god, this is becoming a disaster.
Good job.
No, I clicked it once and not twice. Boo.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Akino. Technically P11. Yeah, Niji Sanji Diva. That's when Sanbaka is coming back.
Oh, Sanbaka. Okay.
Yeah, it was after that set came out that the rule change happened as well. So again, we won't know. I'm curious to see whether or not it will be before or after the Grand Prix that they do that rule change. Because if it's before, it's going to be wild. I'm guessing it's going to be after, but I don't know. So Remember is a 12k. As long as she's downed, she's a 15k, and your opponent can't guard unless they pay an extra 1. And then during your opponent's turn, all their abilities of the Center, Elrig, and Signy are increased by 1. So she's very much a tax effect, in addition to being a 15k body, which is on its own really hard to get rid of. So yeah, this card is very powerful. So yeah, between Remember, Exia, all the level 1s that have weird defensive options, it's really hard to like get in on white, and now white, because of Over Pursuit and Flash cards and White Heaven, and now Sash, even like Tama doesn't need to remove Signy, like it can threaten a lot of things. So yeah, white's a pretty disgusting color. So, and even if you're not, like I said, the top 4 Tama, he had a mono white deck, so he had like all of these cards turned on, and he, instead of using White Heaven, he just used like better assists, because the white assists are like fine, but they're nothing to write home about necessarily. Disrespect is probably the best one out of them, but again, it can get awkward if you're facing another Tama, because you just, their Tama's still online at that point. But if you sort of forego that and use more powerful assists, now all of a sudden you're cooking. So